Uh-oh. Here comes trouble.
Straight from Twin Town Sports Central. You know what time it is. It's the Grovcast. Got a little laid-back intro today. It's Eric Rover here, Daily News Sports Editor, and let's get going. It's the doldrums of the fall sports season transitioning into winter, but thank God we've got some science basketball. And let's start with the men, who are 6-0 right now. And if you follow the Cats at all, you would know that this is something to sneeze at. This is what they do. They win games. They started last year, I believe, 13-14-0. They just ran through their preseason conference tournament, able to come back from deficits. This isn't a team that can just play from the front. And that's big. That's a big distinction. To be able to get down and come back is something that not many college teams, professional teams can do. And these guys are doing it right now. I believe half their wins are second half comebacks. You got leaders like Greg Tucker, the point guard from Chicago. He is lightning quick. He is fun to watch. We're going to have him on a Grovecast coming up soon. And then you throw in guys like John Meska from Germany, 6'6", lots of size, attitude, rebounding the ball. You can put it away too. And during the Mondac tournament, the offense of Tommy Woolridge of Chicago. We'll see if this guard can keep it up. It'd be great to find a solid scorer on the wing, and Woolridge may just be this guy. And then, of course, you throw in guys like Turfair, the Breckenridge sophomore, who can who can hustle and grab rebounds and do the dirty work around the bucket. Jeremy Newton, T.J. Klein, Anthony Hendricks, Dontrell Edwards, and then you throw in the freshman Fred Joseph, who's starting, who can get to the bucket. They're deep again, and that was one of the Cats' big assets last season. It is again this year. They can move the ball around, they can transition, they can score, and they can rebound. They take pride, and it all starts with Coach Schumacher. He does a tremendous job. Anyway, the Cats are in action again Thursday night, taking on Fergus Falls at home. Should be a big matchup. And let's talk about the girls a little bit. They struggled at the Mondac tournament, dropped a couple of games, finished 4th in the tournament. They're going to try and turn it around. They are working on blending some new faces with some old, and I think it might take a little bit to develop into the type of team that they want to be. I know, talking to Coach Paulette Stein, she wants them to be a transition team that forces turnovers and gets the basket easy. Well, using players like Kalen Sheets and Derica Griffiths, they only have 2 returning starters from last year. And that's got to be tough to integrate a lot of new faces into that offense. So they'll also be in action on Thursday night, taking on Fergus Falls. All right, moving right along on the Grovecast. He's here again, ladies and gentlemen. It's Landon Kafka of the News Monitor. Landon, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
It's good. Things are good. It's a slow time around here.
It's vacation time in the sports world.
It really is. But thank God we got pro sports, so let's go right into it.
We have some pro sports.
A little bit.
Still playing.
We got some pro sports that are not playing, and it looks more and more every day that we're not going to have the NBA season. Now, I'm kind of torn on this issue. You're hearing it's the owner's fault, it's the player's fault, it's both of their faults. What do you think?
Well, it's a lockout situation, so obviously the owners are locking out the players and looking for a better deal. So I think in terms of that, you have to look at, it kind of being the owner's fault. That's always how it's going to be, somewhat blamed. If it's a strike situation, you're going to blame the players. If it's a lockout, you're going to blame the owners. But I think right now, the NBA's had pretty sweet deals when it comes to player contracts and things like that. And
So who
had
do
to
you
give a little back. So, right now it's probably half and half.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm on the owner's side on this one, if you can believe it. I understand where they're coming from. Sure, they're billionaires and they probably don't need to make any money off their professional basketball teams, but it's still a business and they want to profit. And how many teams were in the red over the last few years?
Well, I think the teams kind of did that to themselves. You have teams.
Well, sure.
You have teams that make a lot of money in merchandise and things like that, and they can pay players. And you have teams like the Timberwolves that don't fill up the arena every night and have a hard go of making it a business. But I mean, that's a competitive balance issue in my.
Well, it's the exact same thing with baseball. That's why teams like the Yankees can afford the players that they do, and that's what the NBA has to not become the next MLB, and I think that's what they're trying to do.
Well, that's definitely to the players' advantage to have it be like baseball, because obviously baseball players get ridiculous contracts from the Yankees because they can afford it. And if that were like that in basketball, you'd have teams like the Lakers who would have 5 All-Stars.
But that's the thing. Unless you're the Lakers or the Knicks or Miami, you're not making money. Or Boston, whatever. Those big teams. And these teams are driving up, giving out their max contract deals, and it's these mid-level players, these veterans getting their big contracts just because they have to. That's killing smaller, up-and-coming teams.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think the question of, should a 36-year-old Shaquille O'Neal be able to make $18 million a year? Or a 41-year-old Michael Jordan, what he make, like $23 million? His 1 year
was it that much?
Yeah, it was something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
So you gotta, obviously those players have earned their keep, but I think having to pay that much to keep talent like that around is, like Allen Houston in New York. I mean, he's getting paid $22 million for like 4 years.
And you look at a Rashard Lewis, who had 1.5 good seasons and got a max deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's an okay player, but he's not a superstar.
I mean, you would think that these leagues would talk to each other and figure out what works best for each league. Like maybe the NBA should talk to the NHL, because obviously the NHL's problem when they had their strike was, competitive balance, profit sharing, and making all teams competitive. Well, and the NHL went to a hard salary cap.
Yeah.
And so, players are still getting great contracts, but every team's making money, and the NBA needs to, maybe look at that.
Speaking of the NHL, your Minnesota Wild is off to a pretty hot start this season.
The Wild have been playing strong this season under new head coach Mike Yeo.
Is that what's...
Well, you can't say that, it's the reason why they're playing so well. I think adding Danny Heatley and Devin Setaguchi over the offseason was a huge boost to the, offensive capabilities of the Wild. Last year they obviously had problems, with the system. So hopefully, it's always good when they're doing well with a new coach as opposed to, struggling to learn.
Well, the Wild have been perennially one of the worst teams in the league.
Well, they've had a couple down years.
Yeah, but it's nice to see them back. Do you think that this is something that they can keep up and get to the playoffs?
I think they definitely, they've had a lot of young talent come up after, Jacques Lemaire left. I think he left a big hole, coaching-wise. And so they've been trying to figure that out while building their young talent. I think now, they'll start to come together.
Who's the face of this team? Who's the leader? Who's going to drive them?
Definitely Mikko Koivu.
Yeah.
He has been for the last few years, and he's one guy that, whether you're 82-0 or you're 0-82, he's going to give the same effort every night. And I think the players really latch onto that.
Speaking of effort, I know you watched a little bit of the Monday night game with the Packers and the Vikings.
Segue.
Yeah, I'm good at that. I'm a professional.
Speaking of effort.
And in that game, it just seemed like Jared Allen was the only one trying.
Well, Jared Allen's going to come out and try every night just because he's a beast. But, yeah, going into Lambeau, to me it seemed way too friendly. Mm-hmm. Like, all the players are, Aaron Rodgers is joking around with the Vikings, even Jared Allen after the game.
At halftime, they were like...
Yeah, and I know they're...
laughing at each other.
Kind of buddies outside of football, I guess. But, to me, if it's Vikings-Packers in Lambeau and you're getting your butt kicked, handed to you like that, I wouldn't be joking around.
Do you think that, because back in the day, Packers, Bears, Packers, Vikings, whatever... rivalry teams hated each other, and they were not friends, even off the field. When you see Aaron Rodgers and Jared Allen joking with each other at halftime of the game, not even afterwards, as they're both running off the field together, does that kind of bring down the level of competition a little bit? I think it does a little.
I would probably agree with that. Obviously they're going hard, and they're getting paid a lot of money to do that, but I don't know, it just seemed like they weren't even worried about the outcome of the game, basically. That the outcome of the game was determined.
It seemed like it was over.
The field. Yeah.
The way that they were acting like it was over already. So, okay.
All right, I got a question.
Okay.
Can your Packers go undefeated this season?
Yes, they can.
Will they?
Maybe. There's certainly a couple tough games on the schedule. These next 2 weeks are going to be big. They play Tampa Bay and they host Tampa Bay, which is nice. Playing at Tampa would certainly be a different story. But the biggest red flag on the map is the week after the Lions' Thanksgiving game, and that's at New York Giants. And that's the one game that I really think that they might lose. They still have to play the Lions twice, though, and they got to play the Bears. Other than that, I really don't think that they have a lot of blips on the radar. I think they have to play Oakland. But they look so good. Aaron Rodgers makes throwing 4 touchdowns easy and boring. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, touchdown. Oh, here's another one. I'm going to throw to this one. Now this one. It's unbelievable how good he is. It's possible that he could be one of the all-time greats when it's all said.
Bonus question.
Okay.
If Aaron Rodgers is playing for the Vikings this season,
yeah,
do they have the same record as the Packers?
Probably. Yes, dude. I would say absolutely. It is, and here's why. Because the Vikings receiving core is not bad. If you have... How many touchdowns do you think Percy Harvin would have? How many does he have now? 2, 3, something like that?
I think terrible.
He'd have like 6 or 7. And Jenkins is a deep threat, and you're telling me Berrien wouldn't have left? They would still have Berrien. He wouldn't be head casing if he had 5 touchdowns right now.
Berrien would still be crying on the sideline.
Maybe. But if you have AP, even AP out of the backfield, I know he's not like a big pass catcher out of the backfield, but if you can work Rodgers and Peterson together, oh my God, I don't think the Vikings defense has been that bad. Certainly not as any different than the Packers.
Yeah, that's true.
I
have terrible secondaries.
Absolutely. The Vikings would just outscore everybody with Rodgers. So, yeah, it's pretty good to be a Packers fan right now. It really is.
A lot better than a Vikings fan.
Yeah. So looking ahead to April's draft, because I think it's safe to call the season a loss.
Yeah, that's probably true.
The playoffs do not look...
I can see.
Yeah. What is going to be the Vikings' biggest need this next draft?
That's a good question. I think probably you go secondary help, but they've been doing that a lot in recent drafts. I think they'll once again go to the secondary wall and probably the second, third round, first round. I think you just take the best talent available.
Really?
That's always, I feel, the best thing. Besides, obviously, you're not going to take a quarterback or running back.
No.
But if there's a good wide receiver up there, that's fine. good offensive lineman.
I would take offensive line.
You know, I have no problem drafting that.
If you're in the top 5, get a beast left tackle.
They got to think about, you know, upgrading the linebacker core and the secondary. I mean,
I don't think the linebackers are that bad.
But, you know, E.J. Henderson's getting up there. Greenway is going to be getting up there in the next few years.
Yeah.
I mean, they need
well, Greenway was what, like 26, 27, 28?
Something like that.
I mean, he's still got, you know, you can't start thinking about his replacement when you got too many holes everywhere else.
Not that many holes.
Well, I think the offensive line was awful against the Packers. Even Ponder couldn't get away. And Ponder is pretty mobile. Are you liking him?
I wasn't sold on him when the Vikings took him.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sold on him at any point until, you know, he started starting games, and I think he's done a pretty good job of, you know, holding his own, considering it's his rookie year.
What's your expectations for the rest of the season? Do you think, I mean, what's your win plateau? 5, 6?
Yeah, at this point, I don't, you know, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter?
I'd rather they lose to get a higher
every game?
Because the Vikings always finish, you know, they always finish, you know, 7 wins or 8 wins or something like that, and then they're in the middle of the pack for the draft like they are every year. And they need
I don't think this year.
And it's, you know, they don't really need an impact player, but they just need to build, you know, get some talented players in.
All right, boys and girls, we're out of time on another Grovcast. This, of course, is a self-imposed limit because I could really go on for as long as I want to. I digress. I want to thank Landon Kafka for stopping by. Be sure to keep an eye out for the Winter Sports Preview coming up in an upcoming edition of the Daily News. All right, I'm out of here. We'll catch you next week on the Grovecast.